Welcome to X Confessions Unlocked, where lies, betrayal, and truth collide. Kindly subscribe so you don't miss any of this. We share new stories daily. Stick around and unlock the drama. Now, let's get into today's story. She was standing at the door, holding her little pink backpack, and didn't even look back at me. That's how it started. That's the moment I knew something had shifted, not just in her, but in everything. My daughter Emma was 6. Smart, kind, and always asking questions about the world. She loved bedtime stories and drawing with her colored pencils, the ones with the tiny bite marks on the ends. I still have one of her drawings on my fridge, a house with 3 stick figures, one with a beard. That was me. Back then, my wife, now ex-wife, Laura, and I have been drifting for a while. I'm not going to sit here and say I was the perfect husband. I worked a lot. Long hours, double shifts sometimes. I thought providing was how I showed love. Turns out, that's not always enough. I started noticing the signs about a year before the real trouble began. Laura was distant, always on her phone, short with me, barely said goodnight. I chalked it up to stress. Emma was starting school, and Laura had picked up a part-time job at a local clinic. I thought maybe we were both just exhausted. Then one night, I got home late from work and found Emma asleep on the couch, still in her school clothes. No dinner on the table. Laura wasn't home. I called her, straight to voicemail. Texted. Nothing. She walked in about an hour later like it was nothing, brushing snow off her jacket and saying her phone had died. She said she had wine with a friend from work, and I wanted to believe her, so I did. That's how things went for a while. Her out more, me at home with Emma. I didn't mind. Spending time with my daughter was the best part of my day. We built puzzles, made grilled cheese sandwiches together. Even had a ritual of watching silly videos before bed. But the more time Laura spent out, the colder things got between us. Eventually, I stopped trying to fix it. I focused on Emma. I told myself that was what mattered. Until one Saturday morning, I was making pancakes, her favorite, when Emma came into the kitchen wearing this weird look on her face, like she wasn't sure if she was about to get in trouble. "Daddy," she said, dragging the word out, "can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said, flipping a pancake. She paused. "Do I have to call you Dad forever?" I laughed. I thought she was joking. "Well, I mean, yeah, that's what I am." She looked down at her socks, one pink, one purple. "But Mommy said maybe I could have 2 dads." My hands froze. The spatula hovered over the pan. The pancakes starting to burn. I turned the stove off. "What do you mean, 2 dads?" She fidgeted, twisting her fingers. "Mommy said Jason might be my new dad one day. He lets me ride in his truck and gets me ice cream after school." I remember my chest getting tight. Jason. I'd heard the name a few times. My coworker Jason said this. Or, Jason helped me carry a box at work. That kind of thing. I never thought much of it. Never wanted to be that jealous husband who accused his wife of something just because she had a male friend. "Has Jason been picking you up from school?" I asked carefully. Emma nodded like it was normal. "Sometimes. He's funny. He bought me a toy once. Mommy says he's nice." I sat down at the table with her. The pancakes were forgotten. "Sweetheart, I'll always be your dad. No one can replace that." She looked up at me and smiled politely, but it didn't reach her eyes. That smile wrecked me more than if she'd yelled. Later that night, I confronted Laura. She didn't deny anything. "Look," she said, folding laundry like we weren't having the most serious conversation of our marriage. "Emma's comfortable around him. He's been there for her when you're not." "When I'm not," I repeated, "because I'm working to support us?" Laura sighed. "You're missing the point. Jason's part of my life now, and maybe he'll be a part of Emma's too. That's not a bad thing." I sat there on the edge of our bed, trying to process it. Not just the cheating, which she never admitted but didn't need to, but the way she talked about our daughter like she was just up for reassigning. It didn't take long after that. A few weeks. Papers were signed. I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Emma came over on weekends, but something had shifted. She still called me Dad, still hugged me, but there was distance. Like she was trying to figure out if I was still important. Then one weekend, she didn't come. Laura texted late Friday. "Emma's not feeling well. Staying home." I offered to bring soup. No reply. Next weekend? She has a play date. Then nothing. I called, left voicemails. Texted. Eventually, Laura picked up and said maybe it was better for Emma to settle into a routine without back and forth. It's confusing for her, she said. She's 6, I said. She needs her father. She has a father figure, she said. Jason's here. I couldn't speak for a moment. I stared at the wall of my empty apartment, hearing her words repeat like an echo I couldn't silence. Are you saying you don't want me to see my daughter anymore? I'm saying, let's take a break. See how she adjusts. I wanted to fight. I thought about lawyers, court, custody battles. But I was broke. I'd poured everything into the house, the family. I didn't have money for a legal war. So I waited. I sent cards, birthday gifts, voice messages. Sometimes Laura replied. Sometimes she didn't. Then came a photo. It was a Facebook post. I wasn't friends with Laura anymore, but someone sent it to me. Emma's 7th birthday party. A backyard scene, balloons, cake, a piñata. And in the center, Emma, smiling, sitting on Jason's lap. He was holding her like a proud dad. The caption read, "So lucky to have this amazing guy in our lives." I stared at the picture for a long time, longer than I cared to admit. It hurt like hell. But what got me most was the way Emma looked so okay. A few weeks later, I was walking home from work, trying to forget the picture when I saw them. Across the street, Laura, Jason, and Emma. They didn't see me. They were laughing. Jason tossed Emma in the air, and she squealed. Laura smiled like life was perfect, and I stood there on the sidewalk, a ghost in my own story. I didn't go home that night right away. I walked around the block 3 times, sat on a bench, thought about what kind of man I was, what kind of father I'd been. Maybe I hadn't been around enough. Maybe Laura was right. Maybe Jason was the one Emma wanted now. And maybe I had to let go. So I stopped calling, stopped texting. I stopped showing up. I figured if they really wanted me out, I'd give them what they asked for. Total silence. It wasn't easy. Every night was a fight not to pick up the phone, not to check social media, not to drive past the old house. But weeks went by, then months. I started going to therapy. A friend recommended it, said it helped him after his divorce. I didn't expect much, but it helped. Talking to someone who didn't take sides, who helped me sort through the guilt, the confusion, the sadness. I started running again. Joined a local group that met every Saturday. Made some friends. Even went on a few dates. Nothing serious. But it felt good to talk again. To laugh. Then, one night, almost a year later, I got a message. From Emma. It was short. Simple. "Hi, Daddy. Can I come over?" I stared at it like it might disappear if I blinked. And then I replied, "Always." When she walked through the door, she looked different. A little taller, maybe. Her hair was longer, pulled back into a ponytail, and she wore a jean jacket that looked too mature for her age. But her eyes, those big, serious eyes, hadn't changed. She stood there in the doorway, holding a small bag, not quite stepping in yet. I didn't rush her. "Hi, sweetheart," I said quietly. "Hi, Daddy," she replied, voice soft. Then, like no time had passed at all, she ran to me and wrapped her arms around my waist. I hugged her so tightly, I felt like I might break. We didn't talk much that first night. I had her favorite pasta waiting, and we ate on the couch, watching a movie she used to love when she was 5. Halfway through, she fell asleep leaning against me, her cheek pressed to my chest. I just sat there, afraid to move. The next morning, I made pancakes. She smiled when she saw them. "You remembered," she said. Of course I did. She ate 3 whole pancakes, and then, while she was pushing the syrup around her plate, she finally spoke. "Jason yells a lot." I froze for a second but kept my voice calm. "At who?" "At Mommy. Sometimes me." I set my fork down. "Has he ever hurt you?" She shook her head quickly. "No, but he gets mad. Like really mad." I didn't push. I didn't ask for more. But I listened. That's what I learned in therapy. Just listen. That weekend, we played games, went to the park, and she told me little things. How Jason didn't like her asking too many questions. How he once called her a spoiled little brat when she spilled juice on the floor. How Mommy told her not to make Jason upset. It was all said in the way kids say things, casually like they're talking about the weather. But it broke me inside. Sunday night came too fast. I was supposed to take her back. I drove to Laura's house with my stomach in knots. When we pulled up, Emma clutched my hand. "Do I have to go?" she whispered. I don't know, I answered honestly, but I'm going to find out. Laura opened the door with a tight smile. You're late. I want to talk, I said. She crossed her arms. About what? I looked at Emma. Go away in the car, sweetheart. Emma didn't argue. She got in the back seat and closed the door. Then I turned to Laura. She told me Jason yells, that he gets angry, that you're telling her not to upset him. Laura's smile dropped. She's exaggerating. Is she? I asked, because it sounds like she's scared. She's a kid, David. She doesn't understand adult dynamics. Or maybe she understands more than you think. Laura looked away, jaw clenched. It's not what you think. I kept my voice even. If something's going on over there, if he's hurting her or scaring her, I will fight. I will get a lawyer. I will go to court. I've stayed quiet long enough. She's my daughter too, she snapped. No, I said. She's our daughter. And if you don't start acting like it, we're going to have a real problem. There was silence between us. Heavy, full of everything we hadn't said in a year. Then, finally, Laura looked down and said, just keep her for a few days. Let me figure some things out. I didn't say anything else. I just nodded, walked back to the car, and drove away. That week, Emma stayed with me. And the week after that, no word from Laura. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from her sister, Megan. She never liked me much, but she sounded panicked. Have you talked to Laura? She asked. Not in a while. She's in the hospital. I sat down slowly. What happened? She and Jason got into a fight. Cops were called. He's gone. Took off. Later, I found out he'd been drinking. Threw a chair across the room. Laura tried to calm him down and ended up with a split lip and bruised ribs. Emma wasn't home. Thank God. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't feel the need to. I brought Emma to visit her mother once she was released. She clung to my side the whole time. Laura looked pale and tired. She apologized over and over. To me, to Emma. She said she didn't know how bad it had gotten. That she thought Jason just needed patience. That she had been blind. I believed her. Not because I wanted to, but because I could see it in her face. She wasn't the same woman I used to know. Something had broken in her, too. We talked about custody. Laura agreed to let me have Emma most of the time while she got help. She started therapy, took parenting classes, cut off all contact with Jason, and slowly things settled. Emma started smiling more, laughing like she used to, drawing pictures again. One evening, a few months later, she sat next to me on the porch, swinging her legs. You know what I told Mommy? She said. What? I said Jason wasn't my dad. I already have one. I looked at her, trying not to get emotional. Yeah. She cried a little, but I think she was okay. I didn't say anything right away, just pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. Later that night, after she went to bed, I found one of her new drawings on the kitchen table. A house. 3 stick figures. One had a beard. One had a ponytail. One had little pigtails and was holding both their hands. No Jason. Just us. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. I wasn't the dad she almost lost. I was the dad she remembered. Emma had always been a sensitive kid. Not in a weak way. She just paid attention to things most people missed. She noticed when I switched shampoos, or when I was pretending to be okay, but wasn't. After she came back to live with me more regularly, she became even more observant. She'd ask me questions late at night, when we were both supposed to be asleep. Do you think Mommy's sad? I think she's working on feeling better. I'd say, do you still love her? That one took me a minute. I love the part of her that gave me you. But no, not like before. She nodded like she understood. By then, the house felt like home again. I cleaned out the old photos, the ones with Laura and I smiling stiffly during the final years. I replaced them with new ones. Emma riding her bike down the sidewalk, her holding up a science fair ribbon, her covered in flour from baking cookies. Her real life. Our life. Every few weeks, Laura would come by to visit. Always scheduled. Always during the day. Sometimes, Emma would be excited. Other times, not so much. Once, after a visit, Emma walked straight to her room, shut the door, and didn't say a word until dinner. I found her lying on the bed staring at the ceiling. She said she wants to get married again someday. Emma mumbled. I sat down beside her. Did that upset you? I don't know. I don't want another Jason. I gently stroked her hair. Then tell her that. You have a voice, sweetheart. Use it. I did, she whispered. She got quiet after that. It was hard watching Emma carry emotions she didn't know what to do with yet. But I didn't shelter her. I gave her the space to talk, cry, or say nothing at all. Meanwhile, Laura tried. I'll give her that. She sent long texts updating me on her counseling. She apologized again. She started asking me questions like, does she still like that bear with the blue sweater? Or, do you think it's okay if I take her to the zoo this weekend? There was no more power struggle. Just two parents trying, unevenly but honestly. And then, out of the blue, Jason reappeared. Not in person, but through a letter. Laura called me, trembling. He wrote me, said he was sorry, that he's in rehab, that he wants to talk. Are you going to respond? I asked. No, she said quickly. I just wanted you to know, in case he tries to contact Emma. She was quiet, then said, yes. We agreed that if he ever did, we'd go straight to court. I wouldn't let anyone come near Emma again unless she wanted them to. And I knew she never would. But that wasn't the only surprise waiting for us. A few days later, Emma came home from school holding a folder. What's that? I asked. She grinned. My teacher said I could show you early. Inside was an essay titled, The Person I Look Up to Most. I braced myself. It started like this. Some people think a hero is someone who saves the world. But I think a hero is someone who stays even when everything is hard. My dad stayed. I read the whole thing, word by word, twice. I don't think I've ever cried like that in my life. She ended it with, even when I was mad at him, even when I said I didn't want him, he still came back. That's what love is. That's my dad. I didn't need validation. But hearing it from her, it healed something deep. That night, I tucked her in like always. She turned on her side, hugging her bear with the blue sweater. Did you like my essay? She whispered. I loved it. Did it make you cry? Maybe a little. She giggled. Good. She fell asleep with a smile. But the peace didn't last long. The next week, Laura showed up unannounced. She never did that. I opened the door, concerned. Is everything okay? She stepped inside slowly. I need to ask you something, and I'm scared to. I waited. I got a job offer. In Oregon. It's good money. Clean start. My therapist thinks it'll help. But I don't want to go without Emma. It felt like the floor tilted under me. I couldn't breathe for a second. You want to take her across the country? I'd fly her back for summers, holidays. I'm not trying to take her away forever. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just looked at her and said, you know what that would do to her. She needs her mom. She needs stability, I said. She just started feeling safe again. Laura's eyes welled up. I'm not trying to hurt her. I know, I said gently. But this would. We didn't settle it that night. Or the next. There were lawyers, mediators, calls that ended in silence. And then Emma asked me, out of nowhere, do I have to move again? I sat down, heart pounding. Why would you say that? Mommy said maybe I like Oregon, that they have mountains and it snows more. I swallowed hard. Do you want to go? She shook her head. I don't want to leave our porch. Our porch, not the house. The porch, where we sat and talked, where we watched thunderstorms, where she braided my hair once and then laughed so hard she fell over. That was home to her, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it away. The final mediation was tense. Laura looked torn up. Not angry, just tired and emotional. I'm not trying to be the bad guy, she said. You're not, I replied. But leaving would make her feel abandoned. Again, Laura nodded, tears streaming now. I don't want to mess her up more. You're not the only one rebuilding, I said softly. I am too, but we're doing okay. She's okay. Laura exhaled. Then she stays. It was the kindest thing she could have done. She moved to Oregon alone 2 weeks later. Emma didn't cry when she left. She hugged her mom, said goodbye, and then quietly walked back inside. That night, she asked if we could make pancakes for dinner. I said, absolutely. We ate on the couch again like old times. Halfway through the movie, she leaned against me and said, can I stay here forever? I wrapped my arm around her. You already are. About a year after Laura moved, I realized I hadn't thought about her in weeks. Not in that sharp, twisting way that used to follow me around like a shadow. Emma and I had found our rhythm. It was quiet, simple, a kind of peaceful I didn't know I needed. Mornings were my favorite. Emma would shuffle into the kitchen half asleep, hair a mess, dragging her favorite hoodie. I'd have coffee ready. She'd grab cereal. Sometimes we didn't even talk, just coexisted in this calm bubble, like we both understood that peace doesn't need words. The porch had become more than a porch. It was our meeting place, our therapy sessions, our summer reading corner. She painted the railings bright yellow one afternoon. I didn't stop her. I helped. Now it looks ridiculous and cheerful and perfect. Laura still called. Less often, and only when it really mattered. She seemed to be doing well. She'd found a small community, made a few friends, even mentioned joining a book club. I was genuinely glad for her. Sometimes Emma would take the phone and talk. Sometimes she wouldn't. One night, out of nowhere, Emma asked, "Do you think Mommy's lonely?" I considered the question. Maybe, but sometimes being alone is part of figuring yourself out. She was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. That makes sense. Things weren't perfect, but they were real. I'd take real over perfect any day. Then something happened that felt like the last thread tying us to the old version of life was finally cut. Jason came back to town. Not for us. Not for Emma. He was at a gas station when I saw him. Same tired eyes. A bit thinner. He looked over and froze. I didn't walk over. I didn't wave. He approached me. "Hey," he said, voice soft. I nod. "Hey." Long pause. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I was an ass. To everyone. You were, I said. But I'm not the one you need to say that to. He looked down. She wouldn't talk to me. I shrugged. That's her right. He hesitated. "How's Emma?" I didn't answer right away. I looked him in the eye. "She's thriving. She's got people who love her. That's all you need to know." He nodded again. No argument. No excuses. Just a tired man walking away from the mess he made. I didn't tell Emma. Maybe I would someday. But not now. Not while things were good. By the time Emma was 12, she'd stopped calling me dad like a child and started saying it with that half-teasing tone preteens use when they want something. "Dad, can I go to the mall?" It was the most beautiful kind of normal. On her 13th birthday, I gave her a necklace. Simple. Just a small silver charm shaped like our house. On the back, I had it engraved. "You are always home with me." She cried when she opened it, but just a little. Then she laughed and asked for pizza and soda. She wore it every day. Laura flew in for a visit the next spring. It was the first time she'd come back to town since she left. She stayed in a hotel, didn't ask to see me, just wanted to take Emma for lunch and a movie. When Emma came home that night, I asked her how it went. "She seems different," she said. "Softer. Good different." Emma smiled. "Yeah, but I'm still glad I live here." A few weeks later, I found a letter on the porch. Handwritten, folded neatly, no stamp. It was from Laura. She wrote about how she'd messed up in ways she didn't even understand until it was too late. She apologized, not the rushed kind people give to clear their conscience, but the thoughtful kind that takes time to write. She thanked me for being the one who held Emma steady when she couldn't. And she ended it with, "You were the better parent. Thank you for letting me still be part of her life." I sat with that letter for a long time. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel smug. I just felt at peace. Some people never say sorry. She did. That mattered. It reminded me of something I hadn't thought about in years. The day Emma first said she didn't want me to be her dad. It had gutted me then. Now, it felt like a faded scar. Why didn't cover up anymore? Well, I could point to and say, "Look how far we've come." Because we had come far. There was no revenge plot. No courtroom drama. No public reckoning. Just quiet choices. 100 tiny decisions that added up to something solid and unshakable. I didn't become a different person. I became more of who I really was. And Emma, she grew into someone kind, strong, and honest, not in spite of what happened, but maybe because of it. I used to think being a good dad meant always having the right answers. Now I know it means showing up even when you don't. Staying when it's hard. Listening when it hurts. I'm not her hero. I'm her anchor. And she's mine. The other day, I caught her sitting on the porch steps, earbuds in, nodding to music, just watching the wind move through the trees. She looked at me and said, "This is still my favorite place in the world." I smiled. Mine too. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like the past wasn't following us anymore. It had let go. So had I.